So I need to understand first the purpose of riches. So if I'm going to be, if the blessing of the Lord that's going to make me rich first is an understanding. I'm blessed with the understanding of the purpose for riches. If I want to understand the purpose for anything, hear me when I tell you now, if I want to understand the purpose for anything, I can start by looking at the genesis or the beginning of it. So when I go to Genesis, or Breshit as it's called in Hebrew, and I go to Genesis and I see how wealth is used in the book of Genesis, because if you're going to interpret the Bible, I did a Bible study on how I study the Bible a couple of weeks ago, there are a couple of laws that you want to apply. One, the law of definitions, right? So what is that? I have to look up the words in the verse, because if I don't know what the words mean, I can't know what the word means. There's the law of context. I have to make sure that if I'm interpreting a passage of Scripture, what I'm understanding it to mean, it has to match the verses that came before it, the verses that came after it, and it cannot contradict any other verse in Scripture, or I have misinterpreted it. Okay? And then lastly is the law of first mention. God does not change. Why? Because if he changed, he'd have to learn something he didn't know and become better than he was, which means he wasn't perfect. So God doesn't change. He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. Okay. I am the Lord, I change not. Why doesn't he change? Because he's already perfect. He doesn't need to change. Okay. Which means whatever God's original design for money, for wealth, for prosperity, for riches are, whatever his original design for that is, that has to still be his design. He's not going to come up with a new design. Oh, I messed up when I made riches for this purpose, and now all of a sudden I got to make it for something else. So I'm going to see, first of all, if I want to understand the purpose of riches, I have to understand what riches are. So the physical substance on the earth that represents wealth and has since the beginning of time is what? Gold. Gold is the substance that physically represents on earth abundance and wealth. I used to wonder, why is gold worth more than copper? My dad was a plumber. We worked with copper pipe. I looked at the copper pipe. Brand new copper pipe is as shiny as gold. We work with brass. Brass is as shiny, sometimes even shinier than gold. So how comes gold is worth more than brass and gold is worth more than copper? I don't know if any of you have ever wondered that, but I wondered that. And the reason is because gold is an earthly archetype of an eternal truth, and it's an archetype of the truth of eternity. Why? Because it doesn't fade, it doesn't corrode, it doesn't rust. So it's a metal that's unaffected by the elements. That's pretty cool, right?